at Jordan in a different role, or is that just contingency?
No, that's just training camp. We try to cross train as many guys as we can, and I think you don't have to look past last year to see how much that benefited us. But this time of year, we really operate without depth charts. We just roll groups through. We try to cross train as many guys as we can, and I think it's also good that they learn the scheme from a lot of different points also, because there's going to be a lot of things that come up eventually. Training camp's probably not one of those times, but it still allows us to train for those times.
What do you mean the weak side linebacker competition? Or what do you mean the weak side linebacker competition a weekend? Is there any just way to
I don't even consider it a weekend. Obviously, it's not. But I think we'll have good competition. I think we got a good mix of some young veterans and some young players here that we've developed. We have a lot of different guys that have different strengths that we can melt into the scheme. And that's what training camp's all about, is those guys sort of proven that they can be used in one of those roles. That's something that's going to be a long time before it's really worked through. Probably not by first couple preseason games, but maybe after that. But it's still going to be open-ended once we get to our 53-46. Guys are going to have to play a lot of different positions, sort of piggybacking on that lesson.
What do you see from your young safeties after Rodney and Malcolm?
Sort of the same thing. You got a lot of there. It's a little bit different because we don't have a lot of those veteran players back there. The veterans are Malcolm and Rodney. And you have second-year player like Trey, and then a lot of first-year guys. It's a lot on their plate. Those guys handle most of our calls. They got to keep the whole secondary on the same page. So they're going to be mixed in with some veteran players, maybe a corner, maybe a linebacker, stuff like that. Puts a lot on their plate. They've been up to the challenge so far. They're all works in progress, and they're all trying to work for consistency and to prove their worth also.
See a veteran added there?
No, right now, like I said, right now we're just concentrating on the guys we have and trying to work through what we have and trying to put ourselves in the best possibility to use all the guys that we have. So, yeah, that's really not for me to say.
Have you done that? Well, you mentioned it's just training camp, so Jordan moving around in certain drills is not different. But have you done that in the past with him?
Yeah, we did it last year. Yeah, you guys didn't make a big deal about it last year, but yeah, I mean we've cross-trained those guys, sort of all over the place, and I mean other than that, you just put yourself, like I said, put yourself in positions that further on down the line, if it means a guy has to play a different position, it's not the first time that he's done it.
Sidney Jones has seen a decent amount of time in the slot. What do you think so far, and what is it about his skill set that fits well there?
He's a good all-around player. He can play inside and outside, and we're rolling a lot of guys through the slot right now. DJ hasn't been out there for a couple days, but Balls is getting some snaps in there. Vontae's getting some snaps in there. Sidney's getting some snaps. When DJ gets back, he'll get some in there. There'll come points where you even see guys like Jalen Mills or Darby in there, which we did in OTAs. Maybe you guys didn't see that, but it's again it falls into the same. You can write the same article about different positions right there. I think the biggest thing with Sid is that, and obviously because he shouldn't look like a rookie, but he doesn't look like a rookie, even though he was. Played one game for us last year. He's way ahead of where the rookies are, not only knowledge of the defense, but technique and things like that. So, he's a good player. He's a versatile player.
Jim, cross training a lot. Michael Bennett, he's mainly been on the left side, but he's a very versatile player. Is that sort of to get more reps for the younger guys on the other side?
No, right now, particularly guys like Michael and Haloti, we're just sort of melting them into the scheme right now, and I don't want to say just easing them in, but they're just sort of melting in, I guess, and just let them get their feet under them before we start, rolling those guys through different positions. Michael can play inside, can play outside, he can play right, he can play left. But right now, just from those guys being some of the few new guys on our defense, just want to let them get their feet wet, settle in for maybe the first week there, and then we'll start moving guys around. Like I said, we really don't operate with depth charts. We try to rotate guys through as much as we can, so you'll see different combinations. But those are probably two guys that we're taking a different approach with just because they're new to the scheme, new to the team.
With Michael, what makes him so good with kind of the games and stunts and working with another lineman with his pass rush?
Well, he's done it for a long time. He's got a great combination of physical skills and experience. He's a big man. He can play on the edge. He can play inside. He's got great use of hands. He's developed a lot of technique. He's been a consistent rusher over the course of the career. You see all that stuff from him from here. And again, I think it'll help us further on down the road. Last year we had Brandon Graham that played a lot inside and outside. Vinny Curry could have also done that for us. Now obviously Vinny's gone, so a guy like Mike can come in and do those kind of things for us also, and that's important. One thing that we did a little bit of last year, you saw Fletch outside a little bit at times last year, and it gives us flexibility to do those kind of things too.
At defensive tackle, Destiny's been mostly the fourth defensive tackle these past 2 years. Is he ready to take on a bigger role this year, would you say?
You know what? That'll be decided in training camp and the preseason games. I liked where he was coming out of training camp last year. Unfortunately, he got hurt in the first game, and then he had to play with that cast on the rest of the year. So this is a big year for him, just sort of putting it all together. I really liked where he came out of camp last year. He's a little bit bigger now, but not overweight. He's just bigger. He's just matured a little bit more, put a little bit more weight on. Third year is an important year, particularly coming off a year that he was hindered most of the year.
You mentioned the younger guys on the secondary, but for the younger guys in general on defense, what do you want to see from them at this point?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's in the same boat. They're all striving for consistency. I think most people that watch a training camp practice will see the flash. We'll see a guy make a play. As coaches, and what these guys are all looking for and what we're all training for is the consistency. And that's something that all young players battle. There's tough matchups across the board. There's different schemes. Staying consistent through a practice, through a preseason game. That's probably the biggest challenge those guys are taking.
Jim, I think Gary said he's kind of fully converted now to linebacker from safety. Do you see the same thing?
Yeah, I felt that way last year. I think Camus would be similar that way. I like both of those guys though because, man, I keep coming back to this, but both of those guys haven't played safety. There's some flexibility in coverage that you can do with those guys. Nate has a lot on his plate. Nate's played all three linebacker positions. He's played in nickel. He's played in dime. He's really done a nice job. It stretches you thin mentally, but he hasn't shown that there's anything that he hasn't been able to handle from a mental standpoint.
How about the tackling, playing live, in terms of teaching players in regards to the new rule?
I mean, tackling, regardless of new rule or not new rule, tackling is always the biggest challenge because it's the only thing that you really don't practice. We get a few times where we get a chance to go live, and I think it's fairly safe to say that we look sloppy tackling today. Well, it's first time since was it February? Yeah, first time since February that we did it. Drills can only take you so far. There's a lot of things that we can do in drills, but we just continue to emphasize technique, continue to emphasize leverage, those kind of things. But it's probably a defensive coach's biggest concern going into a first preseason game is what tackling's going to look like. You saw a little bit of that today.
Questions? Because of the run keys that are involved in playing slot corner and also the different route tree, is it better to have, or do you look for guys who have more experience and harder if you don't have lots of experience in the NFL to adjust to that position?
Play nickel?
Yeah.
They have challenges just like everybody else. If we had positions that we didn't feel that rookies or inexperienced players could play, we'd have a lot of positions open on the field. So everybody's got challenges, whether you're a defensive tackle, whether you're a safety or a nickel. You know, their job to do their job on the field.
What do you think about the new rule, Jim? What's going to be the biggest challenges you're going into this season?
Every year we see different rules and different points of emphasis, and as players we all adapt. No, I say we, but the players adapt pretty quickly to them. You know, it's going to be change, but there's been changes every single year, and you know, we'll get it. I mean, I think the biggest key is trying to keep guys out of positions where they're leading with their head. You know, if we can do that, then we'll go a long way to mitigating anything that comes up with any new rule that comes up, and you know, I think players are on the same page with that.
Okay.
Right. Thanks.